The restaurant my brother was going to open was supposed to change everything for our family. That's what he kept saying anyway. I heard about it at every Sunday dinner for 8 months straight, between bites of my mother's pot roast and the particular kind of silence my father used when he didn't want to start an argument. My brother had a gift for making dreams sound like certainties, and for a long time, I believed him. That was my first mistake. I'm a licensed CPA. I've been one for 6 years. I work at a mid-sized firm in Columbus, Ohio, and my entire career is built on one thing: accuracy. I don't round numbers up. I don't assume. I verify. That's the job. That's also, it turns out, the thing that saved me when my family decided to use my name to borrow $40,000 from a commercial lender without telling me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My brother's name is Kevin. He's 38, 4 years older than me, and he has spent the better part of his adult life being the favorite. Not in a cruel way, not exactly. It was just the quiet gravitational pull of the family toward him, toward his energy, his plans, his disasters. He'd done network marketing for 2 years, then dropped it. He'd bought a food truck, then sold it at a loss after 11 months. He'd gotten into a commercial real estate deal with a college friend that had gone sideways in ways no one ever fully explained. Each time, the family absorbed the fallout. Each time, my parents found a way to reframe it as a learning experience. Each time, I watched from a careful distance and said nothing because I had learned early that saying anything made me the problem. I don't have Kevin's charisma. I have a spreadsheet for my grocery budget and a very organized filing system for my tax documents and a 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood that I bought by myself at 31. My mother calls it your little house in a tone that makes it clear she considers this a consolation prize. What she means is, you have a house, but not a husband. You have a career, but not Kevin's spark. You're fine, but you're not the story we tell at parties. I stopped going to Sunday dinners about 2 years ago. It wasn't a dramatic exit. I just started having other things to do. A hike, a work deadline, a friend's birthday brunch that conveniently fell every single Sunday for 12 consecutive weeks until everyone stopped asking. The distance helped. I had built something clean and quiet in Columbus, and I was protective of it the way you're protective of a plant you almost killed once and somehow nursed back. Kevin's restaurant idea had a name, Harborside Kitchen, and a location he'd been negotiating in the short north. He wanted to do elevated comfort food, which sounded like a Yelp description for something that would cost $22 for mac and cheese. He had a business partner, a guy named Donnie he'd met at a networking event, who supposedly had hospitality experience and investor connections. My mother emailed me a PDF of the business plan in March. I opened it, skimmed the projected revenue numbers, recognized immediately that the margins didn't account for labor correctly, and closed it without responding. It wasn't my problem to fix. In May, Kevin called me. We talked maybe once every 2 months, so it wasn't unusual, but he had a particular brightness in his voice that I recognized. It was the brightness he got when he wanted something. He said he and Donnie had found a lender, a commercial loan for the build-out and first-year operating costs. He said they were almost fully approved. He said the lender wanted one more co-signer, just a formality, someone with a clean credit profile and stable income, and that it would never touch my finances because the business was structured as an LLC and he had personal collateral lined up on his end. I said no. I said it calmly. I said it once. I said I loved him and I hoped Harborside Kitchen would be everything he wanted it to be. But I wasn't in a position to co-sign a business loan. Not for anyone, not even for family, because I understood what co-signing actually meant, and it was not, in any universe, a formality. He laughed it off, said he understood, said he'd figure something out. That was May 14th. I remember because I wrote it in my planner the way I write down anything I might need to reference later. Kevin, restaurant loan, said no. He accepted it. I want you to understand something. I am not a suspicious person by nature. I am a careful person, which is different. Suspicious people are always looking for the knife. Careful people just know where the knives are kept and don't leave them on the counter. I had no reason after that phone call to go digging. Kevin had accepted it. The family had been quiet. I got busy with a corporate audit in June that ate my life for 6 weeks. I came up for air in late July feeling hollowed out and grateful for my quiet house and my grocery spreadsheet and my absolutely perfectly uneventful life. The alert came on a Thursday night in August. I use a credit monitoring service. I have since my late 20s because a colleague at my first firm had her identity stolen and spent 14 months and approximately $11,000 in legal fees cleaning it up. So I pay the monthly fee and I get the alerts, and I have never once, in 6 years, had a reason to do anything with them except dismiss them. This one I did not dismiss. Hard inquiry detected. Lender, Midwest Commercial Capital. Date, June 3rd. Inquiry type, business loan cosigner verification. I sat very still for a moment. The refrigerator hummed. My cat walked across the back of the couch. I read the alert again. June 3rd. 20 days after I had told Kevin no, I opened my laptop and logged into the full credit monitoring dashboard. There was one inquiry from Midwest Commercial Capital. There was also, underneath it, a new entry I had never seen before. A loan account opened June 19th. Principal, $40,000. Lender, Midwest Commercial Capital. Cosigner on record, my full legal name. My hands were completely steady. That's something people don't understand about shock. It doesn't always look like shaking. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes it looks like a woman sitting very calmly at her kitchen table, opening another browser tab and pulling up the Ohio Secretary of State's business filing database. Harborside Kitchen, LLC. Filed June 8th. Registered agent, Kevin. Member, Donnie. And listed as a secondary guarantor on the attached loan disclosure document, which I had never seen, never signed, never authorized, me. My signature was at the bottom of page 7. It was a good forgery. Not perfect. The loop on my lowercase g was a little generous, but good enough to pass a lender's cursory review, which apparently it had. I put the laptop down. I walked to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. I drank it standing at the sink, looking out at my backyard at the garden beds I'd planted in April. I had told him no. He had said he understood. And then, 3 weeks later, he had forged my signature on a $40,000 commercial loan. I went back to the table. I picked up my phone. I called Kevin. He answered on the second ring, and his voice had that brightness again, that everything is going great brightness, and I realized I had been misreading it all along. It wasn't the brightness of excitement. It was the brightness of someone who had already gotten away with something. "Hey, you," he said. "What's up?" "Kevin," I said, "I need you to tell me who signed my name on the Midwest Commercial Capital loan documents." Silence. A long, elastic silence. "I can explain that," he said. "I'm listening." He explained it the way people explain things they've already rehearsed, explaining but hoped they would never have to. He said the lender had come back and required a cosigner with a W-2 income above a certain threshold. He said Donnie's contact had pushed the timeline up and they were going to lose the lease if they didn't close the loan by a specific date. He said he'd try to call me. I checked my phone log later and confirmed this was a lie and hadn't been able to reach me. He said he knew I would have said yes if I'd understood the full picture. He said it was just paperwork. He said the business was already doing well in soft open and the first loan payment wasn't even due until October, and by then everything would be fine. He said, "You're not going to do anything crazy, right?" That was the sentence. That was the one. "You're not going to do anything crazy." I thought about the 6 years I'd spent building my credit to an A12. I thought about my CPA license, which requires me to maintain a standard of financial integrity and which could be reviewed, complicated, jeopardized by a fraudulent loan appearing in my name that I did nothing about. I thought about the fact that $40,000 at a commercial rate unpaid would not stay a problem for Kevin. It would become a problem for me. Legally. Permanently. "No," I said. "I'm not going to do anything crazy." I hung up. I sat there for a while. I thought about my parents. I thought about how my mother would cry. I thought about how my father would get very quiet and then say something like, "Let's not make this bigger than it has to be." I thought about the Sunday dinners I'd stopped going to and the plant I'd almost killed and the careful, quiet life I had built in Columbus, Ohio, room by room and year by year. Then I opened a new document on my laptop and started writing down everything I knew in chronological order with dates. The next morning, I called the Ohio Attorney General's Consumer Protection Hotline. I explained the situation. They walked me through the process of filing a fraud complaint and referred me to the Columbus field office of the FBI because the loan had been obtained through a federally regulated lender and the forged document constituted bank fraud under federal statute. Then I called Midwest Commercial Capital directly. I identified myself. I told them I was a licensed CPA calling to report that my signature on a cosigner agreement for loan number, and I read them the number directly from the credit report, had been forged without my knowledge or consent. I told them I had not authorized the inquiry. I told them I had not signed any documents. I told them I was filing a fraud complaint with the Ohio AG and the FBI within the next 24 hours, and I wanted a formal record that I had notified them proactively. The woman I spoke to went very quiet. "Ma'am," she said, "are you certain?" "I'm a CPA," I said. "Yes, I'm certain." She put me on hold for 4 minutes. When she came back, she said they were opening an internal fraud review and freezing the loan account pending investigation, and that I would receive written documentation within 3 business days. Then I called my own attorney, a woman I'd used for my house closing who also did general counsel work, and I told her everything. She said I had done the right things in the right order and that I should not contact Kevin or my parents again until she had reviewed the situation. I want to tell you that was easy. It was not easy. I sat in my kitchen for a long time after that call with my phone face down on the table, knowing that somewhere across the city Kevin was probably already calling my mother, already framing this, already making himself the person whose sister had overreacted to a technicality. My mother called at 7:14 that evening. I watched the phone ring. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 7:31. Then my father. Then Kevin, which was interesting because he'd presumably had all day to call and hadn't. Then a number I didn't recognize, which I later confirmed was Donnie's, which told me the 3 of them had been talking all afternoon. I didn't listen to the voicemails until the next morning with coffee because I wanted to be fully awake for them. My mother's first message: "Honey, Kevin told us there was some kind of misunderstanding with the loan paperwork. We think you might have been given wrong information. Please call us back so we can clear this up before anything gets out of hand." My mother's second message: "I don't know why you're not answering. This is your family. Kevin is your brother. He made a mistake, but you're acting like he's a criminal, and it's breaking my heart." My father's message: "Your mother is very upset. Kevin is very upset. Kevin is very upset. Whatever happened, we can work this out like adults. Please call." Kevin's message: "Look, I know you're angry. I get it. But if you go through with this, you're going to destroy the restaurant. You're going to destroy my partnership with Donnie, and you're going to put a $40,000 debt back on me personally that I cannot handle right now. I need you to think about what you're doing. I need you to think about this family. Call me back." I played that one twice, not because I needed to hear it again, because I wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly. There was no apology in it. There was no apology in it. There was no acknowledgement that he had forged my signature. There was only the accounting of what my action would cost him. I texted my attorney the voicemails and asked her to note them for the file. The fraud investigation took 11 weeks. I won't walk you through all of it. It was mostly paperwork and phone calls and waiting, which is a specific kind of exhausting that doesn't have good dramatic shape. What I will tell you is that Midwest Commercial Capital confirmed the signature on the cosigner agreement did not match my notarized signature on file with the Ohio Bar Association database, which my attorney had obtained for comparison. I will tell you that Donnie, when interviewed, said the document had come from Kevin already signed and he had assumed it was legitimate. I will tell you that Kevin, when the FBI contacted him, initially claimed I had given verbal consent. Then he changed his story and said he had misunderstood the process. Then he got his own attorney. During those 11 weeks, my mother called me 16 times. I spoke to her twice. The first time, she told me I was tearing the family apart over a piece of paper. I told her it wasn't a piece of paper. It was a federal crime. She said I was being dramatic. I said I was being a licensed professional, protecting my career and my financial record, and I asked her not to call me again while the investigation was open. She cried. I stayed on the line until she was done, and then I said goodbye. The second time she called, she told me my father's blood pressure had been elevated and that the stress of the situation was affecting his health. I asked how Kevin's $40,000 debt was affecting my father's health. She didn't have an answer for that. I said I loved them both and I hung up. My attorney sent me an email on a Wednesday in November. I was at my desk at the firm, mid-review of a corporate return, when it came in. Kevin had agreed to a settlement with Midwest Commercial Capital. He would assume sole liability for the loan and sign a corrected agreement removing my name, and he would sign a civil consent order acknowledging that the forged signature had been produced without my knowledge or consent. In exchange, the lender would not pursue criminal charges through the FBI, which was their call to make, not mine. The fraud complaint I had filed remained on record. My name was removed from the loan. My credit report was corrected. I received written documentation from Midwest Commercial Capital that I had no liability, current or historical, for the account. I read the email 3 times, then I went back to the corporate return. I want to be honest with you about the ending because I know what people want the ending to look like. They want Kevin's restaurant to have collapsed dramatically. They want Donnie to have disappeared with the money. They want some clean, cinematic consequence that makes it obvious from the outside that what Kevin did was wrong and the universe noticed. Here is what actually happened. Harborside Kitchen opened in October, 2 weeks behind schedule. It got decent reviews on Yelp. Kevin is running it. Donnie is still his partner. My parents went to the soft open, and my mother posted a photo of the mac and cheese. It is, in fact, $24, with a caption that said, "So proud of this guy." I was not there. I have not spoken to Kevin since the settlement. I have not spoken to my parents since December, when I sent a brief email explaining that I needed time and space to decide what kind of relationship, if any, I wanted to have with people who had asked me to overlook a felony for the sake of family harmony. My father replied with 2 sentences. My mother replied with 4 paragraphs. Kevin did not reply. It's March now. I went to the farmer's market last Saturday and bought some early tomato seedlings for the garden beds. I have a new client at the firm, a restaurant group, which I find either ironic or just statistically predictable. I sleep well. My credit score is 819. I think about the word family sometimes, the way it gets used like a trump card, like the name of a thing automatically defines the value of the thing. Kevin said this family like it was a complete argument. My mother said your brother like the noun settled the question. But a relationship isn't a noun, it's a series of choices. And Kevin made his choices very clearly in a lender's office with a pen and my forged name. I made mine in the kitchen at 9 o'clock on a Thursday night with a glass of water and a credit report and the particular clarity that comes when something you half suspected for a long time is finally, precisely confirmed. Some people, when I tell this story, say I should have given him a chance to fix it first. Called him privately, handled it in the family. I understand that instinct. I lived inside that instinct for 34 years. What I know now, with those years of being the careful one, the reliable one, the one who didn't make waves finally taught me, is that the offer to handle it in the family is only ever extended to the person being wronged. The person doing the wronging already handled it. In secret, with your name. The coffee I made that Thursday night was the same coffee I make every morning. Dark roast, black, no sugar. It tasted exactly like it always does. Some things don't need to be ceremonial to be permanent. I've been thinking a lot lately about the word crazy. Kevin used it like a warning shot. You're not going to do anything crazy, right? And what he meant was, you're not going to make this difficult for me. You're not going to hold me accountable for what I did to you. You're not going to choose yourself over the story this family has always told about loyalty. For a long time, I probably wouldn't have. That's the honest answer. For most of my 20s and into my 30s, I absorbed things. I went quiet when I should have spoken. I let the math of family guilt override the math I actually understood, the real kind, the kind with consequences and paper trails and interest rates. I told myself that was love. Now I think it was just fear wearing a nicer coat. What Kevin did wasn't an accident. That's the part I had to sit with. Forging a signature isn't a misunderstanding, it's a decision. He made it alone, in a lender's office, and he made it because he had calculated correctly, based on years of evidence, that I would not make things difficult. He knew me. He knew the version of me that absorbed things. He just didn't account for the fact that I had quietly, without announcement, become someone else. The credit alert changed nothing and everything. It didn't change what he did. It didn't change the fact that my mother's first instinct was to protect him, or that my father's first instinct was to make it smaller. What it changed was the moment I had to decide, clearly and without ambiguity, who I was going to be when it actually cost something, not when it was easy, when it was hard. I think that's where character actually lives. Not in the values we say we have, but in the specific, inconvenient, unglamorous moments when we have to act on them alone at 9 o'clock on a Thursday with no one watching and no guaranteed outcome. Kevin gambled that I wouldn't. And I think for most people who have spent their lives being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who doesn't rock the boat, that gamble would have paid off. The pressure of family, the fear of being the one who destroyed something, it's enormous. It's designed to be enormous. It works most of the time. It didn't work this time because I finally understood something I should have understood earlier. The thing I was protecting by staying quiet was not a relationship. It was a debt. Every time I had absorbed something, overlooked something, stayed quiet about something, I had made a deposit into an account that only Kevin could withdraw from. That's not family. That's a system. And I had been a very willing participant in it for a very long time. The loan is in his name now. Harborside Kitchen is still open. My credit score is 819, and I have tomato seedlings on my windowsill that I started from seed in February, which is harder than buying them from a nursery but means I know exactly what went into them. I find I care about that more than I used to. I don't know if Kevin thinks about what he did. I don't know if my mother, posting proud photos of his mac and cheese, ever sits with the part she played in making him someone who thought this was acceptable. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. That's not mine to carry anymore. What I know is this. The choices we make under pressure are the ones that define us, not the ones we make when everything is fine. Kevin made his under pressure, so did I. We just chose differently, and we are both very precisely living with exactly what we chose.